everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're back again with our series on developers and especially developer advocates. I know this role is looks very fancy, and at the same time, it's tiring as well. But a lot of people still don't understand what this role is because I get a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of my friends also get the same question. So today, I have a very wonderful person with me, Ali Diamond. Hi, Ali.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. And she's been doing a lot of great work in the developer advocacy area. I would let her speak more about herself because she has so many things. Over to you,
Yeah.
Ali.
So, hi everyone. I'm Ali Diamond. I have been doing developer advocacy, developer relations for about 6 years now. I first got interested in developer relations through the early hackathon scene. So 2013, 2014, learned what back then it was called developer evangelism. Learned that it was like this really awesome role that combines creative prototyping with a social human aspect while really getting hands-on and being involved in your community. And I thought, wow, that would be super amazing. I would love to know how to do that. And I went on to go do a program under Cassidy Williams called Clarify Champions, where I basically learned firsthand some of the skills that are needed to do developer relations. And I've just been doing developer relations ever since. So I've worked in many different industries, mostly SaaS and dev tools focused. However, I've done security, I've done crypto, but we don't really talk about that. And just all over the place. I even had a short stint as a founder. So just a lot of different opportunities. And one of the things that I kind of do in my own time as a developer advocate, and one of the things that I generally bring to the table, but don't like to count it as a metric, is I also Twitch stream. I write code live on twitch.tv/endingwithali, which Ending with Ali is where you can find me on all social media or you can find me at live.ali.dev. So you could basically come watch me learn, because I know I'm not the best engineer. I know I'm not the best coder. And so I really love to put myself out there and show the community that it's okay to learn in public. It's okay not to learn, especially when you have a lot of external pressures on you, which I don't know, I can talk about that, whatever. But it's okay to just not know what you're doing and to do it in public and to be 100% authentic in your learning journey.
I totally agree with you. And this role is very, very different than what we anticipate. So I want to understand from you and your journey that what DevRel role is and what should people expect out of this role?
Yeah. How about I tell you what it's not?
Perfect.
It is not content marketing. It is not documentation writing. It is not your marketing department. It is not going to have direct correlation to your end line sales, but instead it is going to help your sales team. It is going to help your customer experience. It is going to help bring eyes onto your product because people are seeing cool things being done with it. So what it is and what is not. Because at the end of the day, and I've had a couple conversations with DevRels in the space about it, is that DevRel is an engineer with plus more. When it comes to what an average engineer has to do in their day-to-day work, and when you think of what a software engineer does on their day-to-day work, they wake up, they get their tickets, they work on their tickets, and then that's it. They're not thinking about how this appeals to the public and how it could also appeal to its end users. That's why they have designers and PMs and all these things. Engineers wake up and they write their code. And if that is not you, that is not you. This is just a generalization. Of course, some engineers do different kinds of work, but as a generalization of engineering, you could almost boil it down to that. While DevRels have to step one step further into that and be like, okay, so I built this thing. How do I write a blog post about it? How can I get this into the hands of people who would be interested in seeing it? Where are the people that are interested in this kind of content live? How do I get more involved in there? What conferences are they going to be at? What collaborations can I do with people who are also working in the space to get people to get more eyes on us? What are these things that I can do to make sure that my developer community is happy? How can I handle PR crises for companies? Like that's you as a front facing person of a company handles so much. So it really is like, if I were to think, what is a 10x developer? Like back to that 10x developer meme that came out of Twitter years ago, a DevRel is truly what a 10x developer thinks they are, or what we think a 10x developer is, but what it actually should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. So you've covered what it is not and what it is. So people understand, okay, this is something which I should be doing. So if, let's say, people who are experienced and people who are not experienced at all, but they want to join this role, so what they should do to make sure that they are aligned, maybe a certification, maybe a training, maybe a course, what should they do?
Yeah, so I kind of have some controversial DevRel opinions. The first and foremost is that if you're coming directly out of school, you should not go into developer relations. I'm just going to say it. A lot of people won't say it, but I'm just straight up going to say it. If you're a new grad, you should not be going directly into developer relations. I thoroughly believe, as someone who did that, I would be a much better developer advocate now if I had at least a year of just working in industry. And I think that some of the best content and the best, like the most interesting things that are being worked on at a company that could turn into very interesting DevRel content. And when you go to conferences, the most interesting talks that are there are not necessarily always by the DevRels, but by the engineers who are like elbows deep in the code, really fixing and building that DevRels just don't get that depth into. And so my recommendation for someone who wants to get into DevRel is make sure you work at least a year in industry. And while you're working in industry, look at the work that you're doing and every new learning that you do, every interesting project that you work on, whatever you can share, make something about it. Write a blog post, share it on Twitter, like literally just be like, just did this thing today, seems pretty cool. Because one of the things that I've realized applying to jobs and looking around and knowing where my interests lie that aren't necessarily DevRel focused is that people want to see proof of what you're interested in. And if you're just like, I know I'm interested in this, sadly, they can't see that. You might know the most about chef's knives in the world. But if you don't like share that knowledge, people won't know that about you. And just from a piece of paper or a LinkedIn profile, they're not going to be able to get that. And so having a standing list of work, even if it's not, don't expect it to blow up, don't expect it to go viral, all these things. If you just have a standing list of work that you can just be like, here's my thoughts on these things, that does definitely help with DevRel. But my recommendation is to work in industry for at least a year.
Very well said. Because if you don't work in the industry, you would not be able to build that relationship, which is need to be built on, which this role is meant for.
Yeah. And there's so many nuances to even knowing like how to like understanding CI/CD, understanding choices that are being made for development that like as a DevRel, I'm like, I guess I'll just use this because this is something that I know. But there's so many nuances to writing code that you really only get through experience in production that I think is just so helpful. And in combination with you understand the nuances of the day-to-day life of an engineer and I'm speaking from my experience, I feel removed from. So that's why I say, if you want to go into DevRel, I'm sorry, but do a year as an engineer and realize and think about like what products you use on a day-to-day basis that could be made better. Talk about why it could be better. make something that could be better, blog about why it could be better, but not like, don't be sassy about it. Just be like, even like reach out to their DevRel team and be like, hey, I use your product every single day. Here's my recommendations of how I could fix it, because guess what? Like many times DevRels and companies are looking at the people who are actively advocating for their product on a regular basis. And then they're going to be like, one day they're going to be like, oh, we see you're really active. Or if you apply when they're looking for DevRels, they're going to see you and be like, oh yeah, that's a name that I deeply recognize, because they're super active in the community as a user. They already know the product. They understand the pain points. They'd be a perfect person to work for us. So like, be an engineer, get into a product, and then give the feedback, because feedback is a gift. Give the feedback, be involved in the community, and then apply to DevRel.
Super, totally amazing. Because till the time you don't understand the product, how would you do that? Now, my next question would be, how do you plan to improve developer engagement and advocacy, especially for product and teams which you represent in the future?
How do I plan to improve DevRel? That is a great question. First and foremost, giving DevRels the space they need to really get deep into the product that a lot of small companies don't necessarily enable their DevRels to have time to do, if that makes sense. A lot of smaller companies, and what you're seeing now more and more trending on the internet in the industry, is small startups, like maybe startups of 3-4 people are like, we need a DevRel to do this. And they basically are expecting marketing, but they're like, we need a DevRel to advocate for our community and to be out there building our brand. Fine, okay. But how can they build the brand if they don't know what they're talking about? So what I would love to see shift in the industry is giving DevRels more time to come up to speed and have a depth or understanding of the product. So that's definitely something I would love to see change.
That's really amazing. There's one thing that also, which people don't understand, that DevRel, as much as it's giving you, but it needs a lot of your time as a DevRel. So
Yeah.
what are the challenges, personally, from your perspective, are there, which people should understand when they step in? Like, you need to be aware of these things before you step in this role.
Yeah. DevRel is a 24/7 job. It is 100% a 24/7 job. And you will, if you are online, your person will blend in with your job. And I don't think that people going into DevRel realize that now, just how much your online personality tends to blend into your DevRel work, which some people are okay with, some people are not okay with. In addition, your day-to-day work won't necessarily always lead to you're going to have to do work outside of work to be ahead of the curve. So learning new language outside of work, learning new industries, new products, new frameworks outside of work to really just stay ahead.
Superb. And what do you think of burnouts in DevRel? Do we have it? Because we've been hearing about, at least I would say from the past 3 years, this is one of the topics which has been spoken everywhere. And I feel that this is one relevant topic which is there. So do you think the burnouts are there in DevRel as well?
I do. I think that every industry has some flavor of burnout. If there's no respect for people's time, I think that there will be burnout. And I think that just is something that happens no matter what industry you're in. DevRel, especially because it is a 24/7 job, does tend to more aggressively take over someone's life more than I believe other jobs might, and that can lead to burnout. Yeah. So it is there. But what's interesting is that while it is there, what's interesting is that while it is there, I think that there's also a lack of understanding of why we get burnt out, because people are like, oh, you're going to conferences all the time. You write blog posts. It's so fun. And you're like, yeah, but if you don't sleep in your bed after 2 months, like, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm tired, please. There's only so many, like, there's only so many happy hour mixers I can physically handle in a year. And I've already hit the capacity 3 times.
Yeah, totally. I totally love it what you said. Is that people need to understand that not every day is a happy day. There are
Yeah.
times when you just don't want to meet people, just want to lie in your bed or just be at your house because you can't just keep moving or you can't have airports as your like first home.
Yeah.
Great. It's a wonderful conversation, but in the end, anything that you want to share it with the audience.
Yeah. My recommendation for people who have experience and are looking to get into DevRel, when you're interviewing at a company, ask them what they expect their metrics to be and see if that aligns with what you're expecting. See if they're expecting you to just be a content machine rather than a person or a face of the company. And make sure that you stand your ground as a DevRel, because it's really easy to get pushed to and fro because we can do so many different things. So really stand your ground of what you believe your job to be.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ali. It was wonderful to speak with you, and hopefully we'll meet soon.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. You can reach out to Ali. I'll share the link in the comment section so that you can reach out to her. She's wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
follow me on Twitter. I have weekly like breakdowns and I like to think I'm funny.
You're amazing.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.